The silent prison Jack moved quietly through the narrow tunnels under the alien city. His boots crunched softly on the dusty floor as he followed the weak light coming from flickering lamps overhead. The air smelled strange and bitter, and shadows danced along the cold stone walls. He felt nervous but determined. This place was dangerous, a secret underground slave market where aliens sold other beings. He hated this place already, but he had come here for a reason. And then he saw her behind rusty metal bars. Sitting in the corner of a small cell was an alien woman. Her silver skin seemed to glow faintly even in the dim light. Her long dark hair hung loosely, and her thin arms were chained. But what caught Jack's attention most were her eyes. They were sharp and full of pride. She didn't look afraid. She looked like she was waiting. Jack stepped closer to the cell. The woman's gaze followed him, but she did not speak. Her chains clinked softly. As she shifted slightly, Jack glanced around. "No guards nearby?" he whispered. "Can you understand me?" The alien woman didn't answer, but her eyes narrowed as if she was studying him. Jack knew this was strange. Most slaves here looked broken. They begged or cried, but not her. She sat calmly like a queen in a cage. He checked a small device in his hand. It showed she had been here for many years. Her file said her name was unknown and her species was rare, almost extinct. "Who are you?" Jack whispered again, still no answer. But a spark of curiosity lit her eyes for a moment. Jack felt a chill. How long had she been here, locked in this dark place? Why was she still proud? And why did he feel that saving her was suddenly more important than anything else? Voices echoed down the tunnel. Jack quickly stepped back and hid behind a crate. A group of guards passed by, laughing and talking after they were gone. Jack peeked out again. The woman hadn't moved. She still sat in the same spot, but now she tilted her head slightly as if inviting him to come closer. Jack knew he couldn't leave her here, but freeing her would make him an enemy of this entire city. He looked at the lock on the cell door, strong and heavy. This would take a plan, a very careful plan. As Jack watched her, he noticed something else. Her arms bore marks, deep scars that looked old. Her thin frame showed signs of hunger and exhaustion, yet her back was straight, her face calm. There was strength in her silence, a quiet defiance. He felt something stir inside him, pity at first, then respect. He whispered again, "I'll come back for you, I promise, this time." The woman finally spoke, her voice soft but cold. "Promises mean nothing in this place," she said, her words slow and careful. Jack froze, surprised that she understood his language. "Then I'll show you I keep mine," Jack replied. Firmly, she stared at him for a long moment, then slowly nodded. It was a small gesture, but Jack felt like she had just given him a reason to act. Suddenly, a loud alarm rang out somewhere deeper in the tunnels. The guards would soon return. Jack had to leave for now before he slipped away. He turned one last time to look at her. The woman sat still, chains tight around her wrists and ankles, but her gaze never left him. For the first time, he saw something in her eyes besides pride, a tiny glimmer of hope. Jack disappeared into the shadows. His mind raced with ideas. He had to find a way to free her. He couldn't explain why, but he felt drawn to this strange, silent prisoner. She wasn't like anyone he had met before. And he was sure of one thing. He would come back even if it cost him everything. The tunnels grew darker as Jack made his way out of the slave market. Above him, the alien city buzzed with life. But far below, deep in that cold, silent prison, a strange bond had just begun. The escape plan. Jack couldn't stop thinking about her. Back in his small, hidden shelter on the edge of the alien city, he sat at a dusty table. A map of the underground tunnels lay before him. He traced paths with his finger, Planning carefully, the alien woman's silent gaze stayed in his mind, proud. Calm, but full of something deeper. He didn't even know her name, but he knew he couldn't leave her behind. Jack's heart pounded as he thought of what lay ahead. The slave market was crawling with guards. If he failed, he'd be captured too, or worse. But that didn't matter now. He had decided, tonight, he would go back the next day. He spent hours moving through the crowded alien city, gathering supplies. At a dark corner shop, he met a smuggler, a grinning alien with long thin fingers and glowing yellow eyes. The smuggler offered him a small explosive device. "This will break most locks," the alien hissed. "But it will bring guards running fast." Jack nodded and paid the high price. He didn't care. He would risk it all. That evening, as shadows stretched across the city, Jack returned to the hidden tunnels. He moved carefully, avoiding the guards and security drones. His heart raced faster with every step. When he reached the cell, the woman was waiting. She sat exactly as before. But this time, when she saw him, she lifted her chin slightly. She was ready. Jack knelt near the lock and whispered, "I have come to free you, but we must move quickly." The woman said nothing, only watching him with her steady silver eyes. Jack placed the small explosive on the lock and stepped back. He pressed the button. A soft hiss filled the air as the device worked with a sharp crack. The lock broke. Open. The metal door creaked as Jack pushed it aside. The alien woman stood slowly, her chains still attached to her wrists and ankles. Jack reached for a small tool from his pack and quickly unlocked her chains. They fell to the floor with a loud clatter. For the first time, she took a full step toward him, free from her chains. But she looked weak. She had clearly not walked properly for a long time. Jack gently took her arm. "Can you walk?" he asked. She nodded once, but her movements were slow. He could see the pain in her face, but also determination. Suddenly, a voice echoed through the tunnel. "Stop right there." A guard had spotted them. Jack's heart jumped. He grabbed the woman's hand and pulled her into the shadows. Footsteps rushed behind them as more guards came running. Jack led her through a maze of tunnels. He had memorized the map carefully. But the guards were fast. At one corner, a drone spotted them. Its alarm blared loudly. Sira, that's what Jack decided to call her in his mind, looked back. Her eyes glowed faintly as she raised her hand. A sudden spark of energy shot from her fingers and struck the drone. It fell to the ground, smoking. Jack stared at her in shock. "You can fight," he whispered. Sira's face was still calm, but for the first time, he saw a hint of something new. Trust. Together, they ran. The tunnels grew narrower and darker. Jack's muscles burned, but he didn't stop. He had waited for this moment. He had planned every path and escape route, but now he realized something. This escape wasn't just about saving her. It was about something bigger. Somehow, their fates were now tied together. They reached a large drainage tunnel that led out of the underground market, almost free. But as they ran, Jack suddenly stopped. Ahead of them stood a tall figure in dark armor, a bounty hunter. His glowing red visor locked onto them, and he raised his weapon. Jack quickly stepped in front of Sira, ready to protect her. But before the bounty hunter could fire, Sira placed her hand gently on Jack's shoulder. "Let me," she whispered. Her voice soft but powerful. She stepped forward, her silver skin glowing brighter. Her eyes flashed with strange energy as she raised her hands in a sudden burst of light. The bounty hunter was thrown backwards, crashing into the wall and falling still. Jack stared at her in awe. Sira turned back to him, her expression calm. "Again, we go now," she said simply. Jack nodded, without wasting another second. They ran into the night, leaving the dark tunnels behind. The city's lights glowed far above them, but their journey together was only just beginning. The chase begins. The cold wind hit Jack and Sierra as soon as they left the tunnels. The night sky above them was filled with stars and the distant hum of ships flying overhead. But they had no time to stop. Behind them, sirens wailed loudly and lights flashed as guards poured out of the underground slave market. The entire city was awake now, hunting them. Jack pulled Sierra along as they ran through narrow alleys. She kept pace, even though her body was weak. Her silver skin glowed softly under the moonlight, making it impossible for her to blend into the shadows. Jack knew it wouldn't be long before they were caught unless they found a way to escape quickly. They turned into an old market street where strange alien merchants were still closing their shops. Some aliens gasped at the sight of Sarah, recognizing her as an escaped slave. Others simply turned away, afraid to get involved. Suddenly, a loud voice rang out, "Stop them!" A guard shouted. Bounty hunters appeared from the shadows. Blocking their path, Jack pulled out a small stun weapon and fired at one of them. The bounty hunter dropped to the ground, but more kept coming. Sierra raised her hand again, her fingers glowing faintly. A sudden gust of energy blasted to hunters backward, knocking them into market stalls. They ran again, weaving through crates and barrels. Jack's heart pounded in his chest. Every corner they turned felt like a trap. Every shadow could hide an enemy. At one point, Jack noticed a rooftop ladder and pulled Sarah toward it. "Climb," he said quickly. Without a word, she obeyed, moving faster than before. Her strength was returning, and Jack could see it in her movements. She was no longer just a prisoner. She was becoming something more. They reached the rooftop and ran across the old metal panels. Below them, guards searched the streets with flashlights, and drones hovered in the air. Jack could hear the bounty hunters calling out his name. They had put a price on his head too. Now, they jumped to another rooftop and crouched low, catching their breath. Sierra looked at Jack, her silver eyes reflecting the moonlight. "Why do you help me?" she asked softly. Jack hesitated. He wasn't sure how to explain it. He felt drawn to her. Not just because she was a prisoner. There was something about her spirit, her pride, even in chains, that made him want to protect her. "Because you deserve freedom," he finally said. Sierra didn't reply, but she nodded slowly, for the first time. A tiny smile touched her lips. Suddenly, a sharp noise made them both freeze. A drone hovered close, its red light shining directly on them. An off alarm blared loudly as it locked onto their position. "Run!" Jack shouted. They sprinted across the roof as the drone fired a bright energy beam. It missed them by inches, burning a hole into the metal behind them. Jack spotted an old ventilation shaft and quickly opened it. "Inside," he said, helping Sierra climb in first. They crawled through the narrow metal tunnel, the sounds of the chase echoing behind them. At the end of the shaft, they dropped down into an abandoned factory. The place was dark and silent, filled with old machines covered in dust. For now, they had a moment to breathe. Jack leaned against a wall, gasping for air. Sierra stood nearby, her posture straight and calm again. Despite everything, she looked stronger than before. Her glowing skin, her steady eyes, even the way she moved, all showed she was regaining her power. Jack felt a strange connection growing between them. They didn't speak much, but something unspoken passed between their glances. Trust was forming, slowly but surely, but their danger was far from over. Outside, the guards were tightening their search. Jack knew they couldn't stay here long. He looked at Sierra. "I know a place where we can hide," he whispered. She nodded. Without hesitation, wherever he went, she was ready to follow. Their journey had just begun. But Jack felt that together, they had a chance. A chance to escape. A chance to fight back. And maybe a chance for something more than survival. As they slipped out of the factory and into the night once more, Jack made a silent promise he would protect her, no matter the cost. Even if the entire alien city was after them, he wouldn't give up. Not now, not ever. Hiding in the wasteland, the cold desert wind whipped across the barren ground as Jack and Sierra left the city far behind. Dust swirled around their feet as they walked quickly through the wasteland. The sky above them was dark but filled with stars. The twin moons glowed softly, casting long shadows over the rocks and sand. Jack glanced at Sierra. Her silver skin seemed to shine under the moons, and even though she was still weak, she kept walking without complaint. They had no clear plan now. Only one goal: stay ahead of the bounty hunters and guards. The desert was dangerous, but at least out here they could hide after many hours of walking. Jack spotted an abandoned outpost half buried in sand. The structure looked old and broken, but it would give them shelter for the night. "We'll rest here," Jack said softly. Sierra nodded, saying nothing. Together, they slipped inside. Pushing a rusty metal door open, inside, the air smelled stale. And the walls were cracked and faded. But it was quiet and dark, hidden from any patrols. Jack found an old blanket in one corner and spread it out for Sarah to sit on, for the first time since their escape. She relaxed slightly, her legs folded beneath her, and she closed her eyes for a moment. Jack sat across from her, watching her carefully, even in this quiet moment. Sierra held herself with dignity, her calm silence made Jack curious. "Who are you really?" he asked gently. After a pause, Sierra opened her eyes and spoke in a soft voice. "My name is Sierra," she said. "I come from a distant world you have never seen." Jack leaned forward. "Why were you taken?" he asked. Sierra lowered her gaze, her expression unreadable. "My people were attacked long ago," she said. "We were captured, sold, scattered, and I was brought here as a prize." Her words carried deep sadness, but also strength. Jack felt anger rise in his chest. How could anyone do this to her? He clenched his fists, but forced himself to stay calm. "You're free now," he said quietly. Sierra's silver eyes met his, and for a brief moment, a spark of trust passed between them. Outside, the wind howled louder, shaking the walls of the old outpost. Jack listened carefully, always alert for any noise that might mean danger. He knew the bounty hunters would not stop searching. They would come soon. Maybe tonight, maybe tomorrow, but they would come. Sierra shifted slightly, her gaze still watching him. "You should leave me," she said suddenly, her voice serious. Jack frowned. "What do you mean?" he asked. "You don't have to help me," Sierra replied. "I can survive alone. And you can go back to your life." Jack shook his head firmly. "I can't do that," he said. Sierra tilted her head as if she didn't understand why. She asked softly. Jack didn't know how to explain it. Maybe it was her strength. Maybe it was her pride even in chains. Or maybe it was because he felt something more than pity. He felt drawn to her, connected somehow. "I gave you my promise," he said. "I keep my promises." Sierra looked down, and for the first time, Jack saw a faint smile on her lips. A real smile, small but genuine. Suddenly, a noise outside made both of them freeze. A sharp metallic clank. A patrol drone was nearby. Jack jumped up, moving silently to the window. A red light swept over the sand as the drone hovered just outside. Searching, Jack quickly turned to Sierra. "We have to go," he whispered. She nodded. Standing gracefully, despite her exhaustion, together, they slipped out the back of the outpost. The drone's light passed just behind them, but it didn't see them. They crouched low. Moving through the rocks and shadows, the desert stretched endlessly before them. Dangerous, but also full of places to hide. As they moved farther from the outpost, Jack felt a strange peace inside him. Even though danger was everywhere, even though they were being hunted, he felt right where he needed to be, at Sierra's side. Their bond was growing stronger, even in silence, as they climbed a hill. Syrah finally spoke again. "Thank you, Jack," she said softly. He turned to look at her, surprised. This was the first time she had said his name. "You don't have to thank me," he replied, smiling, but inside. Her words meant more to him than he could say. Together, they walked on under the stars. Somewhere far ahead, freedom waited, and Jack knew whatever dangers came, he would not let her face them alone. The betrayal of the desert felt endless as Jack and Syrah walked under the pale light of the moons. Every step took them farther from the alien city, but Jack knew they couldn't run forever. They needed a way off this planet, and for that, he would need help. Jack remembered an old friend, a man named Lorek, a pilot who worked outside the city. Lorek owed Jack a favor from long ago. If anyone could get them off this world, it would be him, but deep inside, Jack felt uneasy. Lorek was known to work with shady people. Trusting him would be risky, but Jack had no other choice. That night, they reached an abandoned shuttle station on the edge of the wasteland. Dust covered the cracked floors, and broken ships sat rusting in the darkness. It was here that Jack sent a secret message to Lorek, asking him to meet. Syrah sat quietly nearby, her silver skin glowing faintly in the shadows. Her silence said everything. She trusted Jack completely now. Jack felt that trust like a heavy weight, and he didn't want to fail her. A few hours later, Lorek arrived. He stepped out of an old cargo ship, smiling wide. "Jack," he called out. "It's been a long time." Lorek was tall, with messy hair and a long coat. His eyes looked friendly, but Jack noticed how they kept flicking toward Syrah. Lorek offered them food and water, pretending to be kind. Jack accepted carefully, watching every move. Syrah stayed silent, but her sharp gaze never left Lorek's face. She seemed to sense something Jack couldn't quite see as they sat around a small fire. Lorek leaned closer to Jack and whispered, "You're in deep trouble, my friend," he said with a grin. "I've heard the bounty hunters talking. They're offering a fortune for that alien woman." Jack's jaw tightened. "She's not a prize," he said firmly. "She's under my protection." Lorek laughed. "Relax," he said. "I'll help you escape. You know me?" But Syrah's expression darkened. She leaned closer to Jack and spoke in a soft, careful voice. "He lies," she whispered. Jack froze. He trusted Syrah's instincts. Her senses were sharper than his. Suddenly, movement in the shadows caught Jack's eye. Armed men appeared from behind the broken ships, surrounding them. Lorek stood and raised his hands, smirking. "Sorry, Jack," he said, "but I can't pass up this reward." Jack's heart raced as he grabbed Syrah's hand. Betrayal cut deep, but there was no time for anger. They needed to escape now. Syrah stepped forward without hesitation. Her silver skin glowed brighter, and her eyes blazed with light. Before the attackers could react, Syrah raised her hands and sent a blast of energy toward them. A wave of force knocked several of Lorek's men backward, their weapons flying from their hands. Jack fired his stun weapon, hitting another guard. He and Syrah moved as one, fighting side by side. But more bounty hunters appeared, their weapons ready. The situation was dangerous, but Syrah did not seem afraid. She moved with speed and grace, her powers growing stronger with every moment. Jack realized something important. Syrah was no longer just surviving. She was fighting back. After a short but fierce battle, they broke free from the circle of enemies. Jack pulled Syrah behind a broken wall as laser blasts struck the ground. Nearby, his breath came fast, but he smiled despite the danger. "You saved us," he said. Syrah met his gaze and nodded. "For the first time in a long time," she whispered, "I chose to fight." Her words filled Jack with a deep respect. This woman who had once sat silently in chains was now standing tall. Stronger than before, they ran toward the far end of the shuttle station where an old speeder was parked. Jack jumped into the pilot's seat. Sierra climbed in beside him without hesitation. The engine sputtered, but finally roared to life. Lorek shouted from behind them, furious, "You'll never get far, Jack. They'll hunt you to the ends of the stars." Jack didn't look back. His eyes were fixed on Sierra, who sat calmly beside him. She had trusted him, and now he trusted her. Completely, the speeder shot forward into the night, leaving Lorek and his bounty hunters behind, but Jack knew the chase was far from over. More enemies would come. Their journey was only growing more dangerous, and yet, something inside Jack had changed. This wasn't just about escaping anymore, it was about protecting. Sierra about standing with her, no matter what. As they sped into the darkness of the desert, Jack made a silent vow. He would keep fighting for her, for their freedom, for whatever future lay ahead. The final battle, the desert wind howled around the speeding vehicle as Jack and Sierra raced. Toward the spaceport, Jack's hands gripped the controls tightly, guiding the old speeder across rough terrain. Behind them, distant lights flashed. Bounty hunters were still chasing them. But ahead, their goal finally appeared, the spaceport. Glowing with bright lights and tall ships waiting for departure, Sierra sat beside Jack, her silver skin shimmering softly. Though she looked calm, Jack could feel her tension. This was their last chance. Once they reached the spaceport, they could escape this planet forever. But Jack knew it wouldn't be easy. The authorities would be waiting. The bounty on Sierra was too large. Every guard, every mercenary, every hunter would want to stop them. As they reached the edge of the landing pads, a line of armed guards appeared, their weapons pointed directly at Jack and Sierra. The speeder screeched to a stop. Jack jumped out quickly, pulling Sierra with him. There was no time for doubt now. Sierra took a deep breath, closing her eyes for a moment. When she opened them, her gaze was fierce. She stepped forward, her hands glowing with energy. The guards shouted warnings, but Sierra didn't stop. With a graceful movement, she raised her arms, and a wave of power swept through the air. The guards were knocked back, their weapons flying from their hands. Jack watched in awe as Sierra's strength revealed itself fully. She was no longer a prisoner. She was a force of her own. More guards rushed in from the sides. Jack fired his stun weapon, hitting too quickly. Sierra moved beside him, her energy blasts striking their attackers with precision. The two of them fought as one, each protecting the other amid the chaos. Jack noticed something that made his heart race faster. A group of bounty hunters had circled around behind them. One of them aimed a sniper rifle directly at Sierra. Without thinking, Jack threw himself in front of her. The shot fired. The burning energy blast grazed Jack's side. He staggered, but stayed standing. Sierra's eyes widened in shock. In that moment, something inside her changed. Her calm expression turned fierce. Her power grew brighter and stronger, with a cry that echoed across the landing pads. She unleashed a surge of energy. The bounty hunters were thrown backward, their weapons shattered. Sierra rushed to Jack's side. He winced but managed a weak smile. "I'm fine," he whispered, though pain burned through his side. Sierra knelt beside him, her hand gently resting on his wound. Her touch was warm, and a soft light glowed from her fingers. Jack felt the pain lessen slowly. "Your powers can heal too?" he asked, amazed. Sierra nodded silently. Their bond had deepened in this fight, stronger than fear, stronger than chains, but they couldn't stop now. Jack pointed toward a nearby starship, an old freighter sitting unattended. "That one?" he said. "We can take it." Together, they ran toward the freighter. Guards shouted behind them, but none dared get too close after seeing Sierra's power inside the ship. Jack rushed to the cockpit. The controls were old but familiar. Sierra stood at the doorway, watching as he powered up the engines as the ship lifted off the ground. Guards fired wildly at them, but it was too late. With a roar, the freighter climbed into the sky. The stars welcomed them as they broke free of the planet's atmosphere. Jack let out a breath he didn't realize he had been holding. They were free for now. Sierra sat beside him, her silver eyes watching the stars. Her expression was calm again, but Jack could feel the weight of everything they had been through. She reached out, her hand resting gently on his. "You saved me," she whispered. Jack shook his head slowly. "No," he said. "We saved each other." In the silence of space, they both knew this was not the end. Their journey was only beginning, but together. They had faced the impossible and survived. And whatever came next, they would face it side by side. A new beginning, the stars stretched endlessly outside the ship's window. Jack sat quietly at the controls, guiding the freighter through deep space. Beside him, Sierra sat with a calm grace, her silver skin glowing softly in the dim light. For the first time since their escape began, the silence around them felt peaceful. There were no alarms, no guards, no bounty hunters. Just the quiet hum of the engines and the endless sky ahead. Jack glanced at Sierra, even now. She seemed mysterious to him, strong but gentle, proud but quiet. She had survived so much chains. Captivity, betrayal, and yet here she was, free. Sierra finally turned to Jack, her voice soft but steady. "Where are we going?" she asked. Jack smiled. "I know a place," he replied. "A small planet at the edge of the galaxy, peaceful and hidden. No one will find us there." Sierra's eyes searched his face, as if trying to understand why this human cared so much. After a pause, she spoke again. "Why did you risk everything for me?" she asked gently. Jack took a deep breath. He had asked himself that question many times. At first, it was pity, then respect. But now, it was something more. Something he couldn't easily explain. "I couldn't leave you in that cage," he said simply. "And somewhere along the way, I realized I didn't want a life without you in it." Sierra's gaze softened. Her lips curved into the smallest smile, but it was full of meaning. A moment passed between them, silent but deep. As they sailed farther from the planet they left behind, Jack checked the ship's systems. The fuel was enough for a long journey. They had supplies, they had freedom. But what they really had was each other. Sierra rose from her seat and walked to the window. She placed her hand on the glass. Looking out at the stars, "I was a slave for many years," she said quietly. "I forgot what it felt like to choose my own path." She turned back to Jack. "But now, with you, I feel free again." Jack stood and crossed the room to stand beside her. Without hesitation, he gently took her hand. Her fingers were cool but strong. She didn't pull away. In that simple gesture, so much was said without words. "Wherever we go," Jack said, "we'll go together." Sierra nodded slowly. Her expression was peaceful now. And for the first time, Jack saw hope shining in her silver eyes. Hours passed as the ship sailed through the vastness of space. In the quiet moments, Jack shared stories of his homeworld, places he had seen, dreams he once had. Sierra listened closely, asking questions softly. She told him pieces of her own past to her people. Her lost planet, her old life before captivity. Each story brought them closer. The walls that had once separated them, human and alien, rescuer and rescued, were gone now. What remained was a bond that neither of them fully understood yet. But they both felt it as they approached the edge of the galaxy. Jack pointed out the window. "There," he said, a small, beautiful blue-green planet came into view. It was quiet, untouched, hidden from the busy trade routes. A perfect place to begin again. Sierra's lips parted in wonder as she looked at it. "It's beautiful," she whispered. Jack smiled warmly. "It's yours," he said. "Our new Home, the ship descended slowly, landing softly on a grassy plain near a quiet lake. When the doors opened, fresh air rushed inside, cool and clean. Sierra stepped out first, her bare feet touching the ground of a free world. She closed her eyes, feeling the wind on her face. Jack followed, standing beside her. In that moment, they both knew this was more than survival. This was a new life, a place where no one could chain them again as the sun set on their first day. Of freedom, Sierra reached out and gently took Jack's hand. For the first time, she didn't look like a prisoner. She looked like an equal, like a partner, like someone ready to begin again. Jack squeezed her hand gently. "Together," he said softly, and together they walked toward the horizon, leaving their past behind, a human and an alien woman, once strangers. Now something more. Their journey of pain and danger had brought them here, to a place where freedom and hope waited, and this was only the beginning of their story.